My child, before you do anything else, listen to me carefully. You may think you clicked on this message by chance. You may think this is just another video, another voice, another moment that will pass like all the others. But I tell you the truth, you were not supposed to find this message by accident. I have been watching you. I have seen the questions you never asked out loud. I have heard the prayers that never left your lips. I have listened to the conversations inside your heart when nobody else was around. There were nights when you stared into the darkness, wondering if anything would ever change. There were moments when you smiled in front of others while carrying a burden nobody could see. There were times when you told everyone you were fine, even though deep inside you felt exhausted. And through every one of those moments I was there. I did not leave. I did not turn away. I did not stop listening. My child, I know there have been days when my silence confused you. Days when you wondered if your prayers had reached heaven at all. Days when you questioned whether I still saw you. But listen to me now. I saw everything. Every tear, every disappointment, every silent battle, every moment when you almost gave up but somehow kept going. And that is why I brought you here today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because before this month comes to an end, something you have been carrying in secret is about to begin changing. No, it may not happen the way you expect. It may not arrive through the door you have been staring at. It may not look like the answer you imagined. But something is moving. Even now, something has already begun. That feeling you cannot explain. That tug in your spirit. That sense that something is different. Do not ignore it. Stay with me for the next few moments. Because what I am about to reveal is connected to a prayer you thought I had forgotten. A prayer nobody knows about. A prayer you stopped talking about. A prayer you almost stopped believing in. My child, I never forgot it. And what I need to tell you next may change the way you see this entire season of your life. My child, there is something I need you to understand today. Not every prayer comes from spoken words. Not every cry reaches me through a voice. Some of the deepest prayers you have ever prayed were never spoken out loud at all. They came through tears. They came through silence. They came through sleepless nights when your mind refused to rest. They came through the moments when you sat alone, staring into the distance, carrying questions you could not answer. And I heard every one of them. You may think nobody noticed what you have been carrying. You may think nobody understands how heavy this season has been, but I do. I know about the burden you never wanted to place on anyone else's shoulders. I know about the worries you keep hidden behind your smile. I know about the fears that visit you late at night when everything becomes quiet. I know about the disappointment you rarely speak about anymore. The disappointment that came after believing. The disappointment that came after hoping. The disappointment that came after waiting. My child, I saw it all. I saw the day you prayed and expected an answer. I saw the week you waited. I saw the month that followed. And I saw the questions that began forming in your heart. Did God hear me? Does God see what I'm facing? Why is nothing changing? You never said those words to many people, but you said them inside your heart, and I heard them. I know there were moments when you felt forgotten, moments when it seemed as though everyone else's life was moving forward while yours remained stuck. You watched doors open for others. You watched opportunities appear for others. You watched prayers get answered for others. And quietly, you wondered when your turn would come. You never wanted to be jealous. You never wanted to become bitter. You were simply tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hoping. Tired of carrying expectations that seemed to remain unfulfilled. My child, I understand that feeling more than you realize. I saw every moment you almost gave up. Every moment you considered lowering your expectations. Every moment you thought about settling for less because believing had become exhausting. But even then, there was something inside you that refused to die. Something inside you kept reaching for me. Something inside you kept hoping. Something inside you kept believing, even when your emotions told you to quit. And that is what I want you to see. You have been judging yourself too harshly. You keep focusing on your moments of weakness. You keep remembering your doubts. You keep replaying your fears. But I see something different. I see the fact that you kept going. I see the fact that you are still here. I see the fact that despite everything you have faced, you have not completely turned away. You call yourself weak. I call you persistent. You call yourself tired. I call you faithful. You call yourself broken. I call you chosen. My child, there were days when you felt like your faith was barely surviving. But faith does not have to be loud to be real. Faith does not have to be perfect to be powerful. Sometimes faith looks like taking one more step when you feel exhausted. Sometimes faith looks like getting out of bed when your heart feels heavy. Sometimes faith looks like whispering, "Lord, help me," when you have no other words left. And every one of those moments mattered. I noticed them all. Not one was wasted. Not one escaped my attention. Not one went unseen. The tears you thought nobody noticed, I saw them. The prayers you thought disappeared into silence, I heard them. The battles you fought behind closed doors, I witnessed every one. And there is something else I need you to know. While you were focusing on what had not happened yet, I was watching what was happening inside you, because before I change circumstances, I often strengthen hearts. Before I open doors, I prepare people. Before I release blessings, I build endurance. And my child, there is one thing I discovered inside you during this season that is more valuable than you realize. Something that remained alive despite every disappointment. Something that survived every delay. Something that the enemy tried to destroy but could not. And what I found inside you is the reason your story is not over. In fact, it may be the very reason your next season is about to begin. My child, there is something I need you to understand today. Not every prayer comes from spoken words. Not every cry reaches me through a voice. Some of the deepest prayers you have ever prayed were never spoken out loud at all. They came through tears. They came through silence. They came through sleepless nights when your mind refused to rest. They came through the moments when you sat alone, staring into the distance, carrying questions you could not answer. And I heard every one of them. You may think nobody noticed what you have been carrying. You may think nobody understands how heavy this season has been, but I do. I know about the burden you never wanted to place on anyone else's shoulders. I know about the worries you keep hidden behind your smile. I know about the fears that visit you late at night when everything becomes quiet. I know about the disappointment you rarely speak about anymore. The disappointment that came after believing. The disappointment that came after hoping. The disappointment that came after waiting. My child, I saw it all. I saw the day you prayed and expected an answer. I saw the week you waited. I saw the month that followed. And I saw the questions that began forming in your heart. Did God hear me? Does God see what I'm facing? Why is nothing changing? You never said those words to many people, but you said them inside your heart, and I heard them. I know there were moments when you felt forgotten, moments when it seemed as though everyone else's life was moving forward while yours remained stuck. You watched doors open for others. You watched opportunities appear for others. You watched prayers get answered for others. And quietly, you wondered when your turn would come. You never wanted to be jealous. You never wanted to become bitter. You were simply tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hoping. Tired of carrying expectations that seemed to remain unfulfilled. My child, I understand that feeling more than you realize. I saw every moment you almost gave up. Every moment you considered lowering your expectations. Every moment you thought about settling for less because believing had become exhausting. But even then, there was something inside you that refused to die. Something inside you kept reaching for me. Something inside you kept hoping. Something inside you kept believing, even when your emotions told you to quit. And that is what I want you to see. You have been judging yourself too harshly. You keep focusing on your moments of weakness. You keep remembering your doubts. You keep replaying your fears. But I see something different. I see the fact that you kept going. I see the fact that you are still here. I see the fact that despite everything you have faced, you have not completely turned away. You call yourself weak. I call you persistent. You call yourself tired. I call you faithful. You call yourself broken. I call you chosen. My child, there were days when you felt like your faith was barely surviving. But faith does not have to be loud to be real. Faith does not have to be perfect to be powerful. Sometimes faith looks like taking one more step when you feel exhausted. Sometimes faith looks like getting out of bed when your heart feels heavy. Sometimes faith looks like whispering, "Lord, help me," when you have no other words left, and every one of those moments mattered. I noticed them all. Not one was wasted. Not one escaped my attention. Not one went unseen. The tears you thought nobody noticed, I saw them. The prayers you thought disappeared into silence, I heard them. The battles you fought behind closed doors, I witnessed every one. And there is something else I need you to know. While you were focusing on what had not happened yet, I was watching what was happening inside you, because before I change circumstances, I often strengthen hearts. Before I open doors, I prepare people. Before I release blessings, I build endurance. And my child, there is one thing I discovered inside you during this season that is more valuable than you realize. Something that remained alive despite every disappointment. Something that survived every delay. Something that the enemy tried to destroy but could not. And what I found inside you is the reason your story is not over. In fact, it may be the very reason your next season is about to begin. My child, there is a reason I brought your attention to this moment. There is a reason I asked you not to leave too quickly. Because beneath the prayers, beneath the waiting, beneath the disappointment, there is something deeper. Something you rarely talk about anymore. Something you have learned to hide. Something you thought you had moved past. But it is still there. And you know exactly what I am talking about. It is the wound you stopped mentioning. The wound you stopped explaining. The wound you became tired of carrying. At first you talked about it often. You asked questions. You searched for answers. You hoped someone would understand. But as time passed, you became quiet. Not because the pain disappeared, but because you became exhausted from explaining it. My child, I know what happened. I know the disappointment that still lingers in your heart. I know the promise that did not unfold the way you expected. I know the relationship that ended. I know the opportunity that vanished. I know the prayer that seemed unanswered. I know the betrayal that caught you by surprise. I know the rejection that made you question your worth. I know the season that left scars nobody else can see. And I know something else. You became skilled at hiding it. You learned how to smile while hurting. You learned how to say, "I'm okay," when you were not okay. You learned how to keep moving forward even when part of your heart was still carrying yesterday's pain. Others saw your strength, but I saw your struggle. Others saw your smile, but I saw your tears. Others saw your progress, but I saw the battle happening beneath the surface. My child, I was there. I was there when the disappointment arrived. I was there when the phone call came. I was there when the answer was no. I was there when the door closed. I was there when your heart broke. I was there when you sat alone trying to understand why. And I have remained beside you ever since. The enemy wanted that wound to become your identity. He wanted you to believe you would never fully recover. He wanted you to believe that one painful chapter would define the rest of your story. He wanted you to build your future around your fear, around your disappointment, around your loss. But that was never my plan for you. My child, you are more than what happened to you. You are more than your worst day. You are more than your deepest disappointment. You are more than the chapter that hurt you. Yet I know that wound still affects the way you think. It affects the way you trust. It affects the way you pray. It affects the way you expect. Part of you wants to believe again, but another part of you is afraid to hope too much, because hope feels risky. Expectation feels dangerous. Trust feels difficult when you have experienced pain. So you tell yourself not to expect much. You tell yourself not to get excited. You tell yourself not to believe too strongly, because if you expect less, maybe it will hurt less. But my child, that hidden wound was never meant to become a permanent home. It was never meant to shape your future. It was never meant to convince you that your best days are behind you. I did not bring you this far to leave you trapped in yesterday's pain. I did not carry you through previous battles just to abandon you now. And today I need you to stop pretending that wound does not exist. Not because I want to shame you, not because I want to expose you, but because I want to heal you. Healing begins where honesty begins. Freedom begins where truth begins. And right now, I am inviting you to place that hidden pain into my hands. The disappointment, the regret, the rejection, the unanswered questions. All of it. Give it to me. You were never meant to carry it alone. And if this message is speaking directly to your heart, I want you to make a simple declaration of faith. Comment, Lord, heal what I cannot heal alone. Not because those words are magic, but because sometimes healing begins when you stop carrying the burden by yourself. Now listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal next may explain something that has confused you for a very long time. The wound was real, the pain was real, but there was another voice speaking into that pain, a voice that has been trying to convince you of something that was never true, and that voice is the very reason many people never step into the future I prepared for them. My child, after the wound came the whisper. Not my whisper, another one. A voice that appeared in your moments of weakness. A voice that spoke when you were tired. A voice that grew louder whenever disappointment visited your life. You know that voice. Perhaps you did not recognize where it came from, but you heard it. Again and again. It whispered that nothing would ever change. It whispered that your prayers were pointless. It whispered that your waiting was wasted. It whispered that everyone else would move forward except you. And little by little, it tried to plant those thoughts inside your heart. The enemy knew he could not stop my love for you. He knew he could not cancel my plans for you. He knew he could not erase the purpose I placed within you. So he chose a different strategy. He tried to attack your expectations. He tried to attack your confidence. He tried to attack your hope. Because if he could convince you to stop expecting, he would not need to stop the blessing. You would stop looking for it yourself. My child, listen carefully. Many of the things you believed about yourself did not come from me. The thought that you are forgotten, that was not my voice. The thought that you are unworthy, that was not my voice. The thought that it is too late for you, that was not my voice. The thought that your mistakes disqualified you, that was not my voice. The thought that your future will look exactly like your past, that was not my voice. I need you to hear this clearly. Fear speaks. Disappointment speaks. Pain speaks. But they do not speak for me. The enemy wanted you to interpret every delay as rejection. He wanted you to interpret every setback as failure. He wanted you to interpret every closed door as proof that I had abandoned you. But he was lying, because delays are not always rejection. Setbacks are not always failure. Closed doors are not always the end of the story. Sometimes they are protection. Sometimes they are preparation. Sometimes they are redirection. My child, think about how many times you survived situations that once seemed impossible. Think about the battles you thought would destroy you. Think about the seasons you thought you would never escape. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. Not because you were strong enough by yourself, but because my hand remained upon you. The enemy hoped you would focus only on what you lost. I wanted you to see what remained. The enemy wanted you to focus on the door that closed. I wanted you to notice the danger that stayed outside. The enemy wanted you to focus on the prayer that seemed unanswered. I wanted you to trust the timing you could not yet understand. My child, there are people listening right now who have spent months believing lies that were never true. Some have believed they are too broken. Some have believed they are too old. Some have believed they have missed their opportunity. Some have believed that heaven has forgotten their name. But none of those things are true. I know your name. I know your story. I know your struggles. I know your future. And I have not changed my mind about you. Not once. Not for a single moment. Even during your worst day. Even during your weakest season. Even when you questioned yourself. Even when you questioned me. My love remained. My purpose remained. My promises remained. And this is where many people make a mistake. They spend so much time listening to fear that they stop listening to faith. They spend so much time looking at the obstacle that they stop looking at the one who is greater than the obstacle. They spend so much time studying the problem that they forget who is holding the solution. My child, the enemy's greatest victory is not when he creates a problem. His greatest victory is when he convinces someone that the problem is bigger than their God. Do not believe that lie. Do not build your future around fear. Do not allow yesterday's disappointment to become tomorrow's expectation, because something has already started shifting. Even if you cannot see it yet, Even if you cannot explain it yet, even if the evidence has not appeared yet, something is changing, something is aligning, something is moving behind the scenes. And in the next part, I want to show you the signs that the shift has already begun, because what you have been praying for may be much closer than you realize. My child, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that nothing is happening simply because they cannot see it. They look around, they examine their circumstances, they search for visible proof, and when they do not immediately find it, they conclude that I am not working. But that is not how I work. Many of my greatest movements begin long before they become visible. The shift often starts in places hidden from human eyes. That is why I need you to listen carefully, because the change you have been praying for may have already begun, not when you finally see it, not when everyone else notices it, but before that, much earlier than that. The moment you started trusting me instead of your fear, something began to shift. The moment you chose not to quit, something began to shift. The moment you got up after disappointment and kept moving forward, something began to shift. You thought those moments were small. I did not. You thought they were insignificant. I did not. Because every step of obedience creates movement. Every act of faith creates momentum. Every decision to trust me opens space for me to work. My child, there are things happening right now that you cannot yet see. Conversations are taking place. Opportunities are forming. Paths are opening. Answers are moving closer. You may not know their names. You may not know their timing, but I do. And nothing is outside my sight. Think about this. How many times in your life did the answer arrive from a direction you never expected? How many times did I use people you never anticipated? How many times did I create a way where you could not see one? The same God who carried you then is carrying you now. The same God who opened doors before can open doors again. The same God who made a way before can make a way again. My child, stop measuring your future by your present circumstances. Your current situation is not the final chapter. Your current struggle is not the full story. Your current waiting season is not the permanent destination. There is more happening than you realize. There is more being prepared than you understand. There is more ahead of you than what is behind you. And this is why the enemy has fought so hard to keep you discouraged. Because discouragement blinds people to movement. Fear blinds people to opportunity. Doubt blinds people to possibility. But faith allows you to keep walking before the evidence appears. Faith allows you to trust before the answer arrives. Faith allows you to move forward while heaven continues working behind the scenes. My child, I want you to pay attention to the small things. The unexpected peace, the renewed strength, the new perspective, the doors that suddenly seem different, the opportunities that begin appearing, the people I bring into your path. Do not dismiss these things. Many times, major changes begin with small signs. Many times, great breakthroughs begin with quiet shifts. Many times, the answer arrives gradually before it arrives suddenly. And that is exactly why you must remain alert. Because what is beginning now may not look dramatic. It may not arrive with immediate fanfare. It may not happen overnight, but it is real. The shift is real. The movement is real. The preparation is real. And before you move into the next season, there is one instruction I need you to remember. One mistake I need you to avoid. One habit that could slow down what I am trying to build in your life. Because many people pray for a new future while secretly returning to the very things that kept them trapped in the past. And that is what we need to talk about next. Before we continue, my child, I want to ask you to do something simple. If this message has spoken to your heart, if you are still listening right now, if you are choosing faith over fear in this season of your life, then type these words in the comments. I trust God's timing, not because those words will change everything overnight, but because faith grows when it is declared. And sometimes the first step toward a breakthrough is choosing to trust me before you see the evidence. Type it with confidence. I trust God's timing. And now stay with me. Because what I am about to share next may be exactly the instruction you need before the blessing you have been praying for begins to unfold. My child, if you remember only one thing from this message, remember this. Do not return to the place I pulled you from. Do not return to the mindset that nearly destroyed your peace. Do not return to the fear that kept you trapped. Do not return to the habits that drained your strength. Do not return to the version of yourself that believed you had no future. I know the temptation is real. When the waiting becomes long, people often feel drawn back to what is familiar, even when what is familiar was hurting them, even when what is familiar was limiting them, even when what is familiar was keeping them from becoming who they were created to be. Because familiarity feels safe. But familiar is not always healthy. My child, there are things you prayed to be delivered from. Remember that. There were nights when you begged me to change your situation. There were moments when you asked me to free you from anxiety. There were seasons when you cried out for relief. And I answered more prayers than you realize. The problem is that many people celebrate freedom while secretly keeping a door open for the thing they were freed from. They move forward physically, but mentally, they keep returning. They leave the place, but they keep carrying the mindset. They leave the situation, but they keep carrying the fear. They leave the pain, but they keep carrying the identity that pain created. My child, you cannot fully embrace a new season while constantly looking backward. You cannot walk confidently into tomorrow while living emotionally in yesterday. You cannot receive what I am building while clinging to what I am asking you to release. That is why I am speaking clearly to you today. Let go. Let go of the fear that tells you nothing will change. Let go of the disappointment that tells you not to hope. Let go of the voice that keeps reminding you of your failures. Let go of the belief that your past has more power than your future. Because it does not. I did not create you to live chained to old battles. I did not rescue you so you could return to the same prison. I did not heal you so you could continue identifying with your wound. My child, there are thoughts you must stop entertaining. Thoughts that tell you it is too late. Thoughts that tell you are stuck. Thoughts that tell you your best days are behind you. Those thoughts may feel familiar, but they are not truth. And truth must always be stronger than familiarity. Remember Lot's wife. She escaped the city, but her heart remained attached to what she left behind. Do not make the same mistake. Do not spend your future mourning what I removed. Some things had to leave. Some doors had to close. Some people had to walk away. Some plans had to fall apart, not because I was against you, but because I was leading you somewhere greater. You may not fully understand that today, but one day you will. One day you will see that what felt like loss was often protection. What felt like failure was often redirection. What felt like an ending was often the beginning of something better. My child, you have already come too far to turn around now. Look at how much you have survived. Look at how much you have learned. Look at how much you have overcome. You are not the same person you were a year ago. You are not the same person you were during your darkest season. I have been working in you, strengthening you, teaching you, transforming you, even when you could not see it. So stop looking backward with longing. Stop glorifying what I delivered you from. Stop reopening doors I already closed. Keep moving forward. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because the path ahead contains things the path behind never could. And this brings me to something many people fail to understand. While you have been focused on what you lost, I have been focused on what I am building. While you have been grieving what ended, I have been preparing what comes next. And what I am building behind the scenes right now is greater than you can currently imagine. My child, one of the hardest things for people to accept is that I am often doing my greatest work in places they cannot see. You want evidence. You want certainty. You want confirmation. And I understand that. But faith has always required trust before sight. That is why so many people become discouraged too soon. They look at their circumstances and conclude that nothing is changing. They look at their current situation and assume the story will always remain the same. But my child, there is a difference between what is visible and what is real. Something can be real long before it becomes visible. A foundation is real before the building appears. A seed is real before the harvest arrives. Preparation is real before the opportunity comes. And right now, there are things being built behind the scenes that you cannot yet fully see. I am building strength where there was once weakness. I am building wisdom where there was once confusion. I am building confidence where fear once lived. I am building peace in places that were once filled with anxiety. You may not notice every change, but I do. You may not recognize every step of growth, but I do. And what I am building inside you is just as important as what I am building around you. Because if I only changed your circumstances without strengthening your heart, the blessing would not last. If I only opened the door without preparing the person walking through it, the opportunity could become overwhelming. So I have been working on both, the future you pray for, and the person who will live in that future. My child, there are also things moving around you. People you have not met yet. Conversations you have not heard yet. Opportunities you cannot see yet. Connections you cannot imagine yet. I know every detail. I know every timing. I know every step. Nothing is random. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing is out of my control. Even when events seem disconnected to you, I see the entire picture. I see what happened yesterday. I see where you stand today. And I see where I am leading you tomorrow. That is why I need you to stop assuming that silence means inactivity. Silence does not mean I stopped working. Silence does not mean I forgot my promises. Silence does not mean I abandoned your future. Many times, silence simply means construction is still taking place. A builder does not stop because the walls are not visible yet. The work continues. The preparation continues. The process continues. And the same is true for your life. My child, there are blessings that require preparation. There are assignments that require maturity. There are answers that require patience. And there are miracles that begin long before people recognize them. Perhaps you expected a sudden breakthrough. Perhaps you expected one dramatic moment, and sometimes that happens. But many times, my work begins quietly. One thought changes. One habit changes. One perspective changes. One decision changes. And eventually, an entire life changes. Never underestimate what I can do through small beginnings. Never underestimate what I can do through steady faithfulness. Never underestimate what I can do through a heart that continues trusting me. Because what I am building is bigger than a temporary solution. I am not merely trying to fix one problem. I am preparing a future. I am shaping a testimony. I am creating a story that will one day remind you of my faithfulness. And when that day comes, you will realize that I was working during every moment you thought nothing was happening. You will realize that every delay had purpose. Every lesson had value. Every season had meaning. But before that future arrives, there is something important I need you to understand. Something that may completely change the way you see your current situation. Because right now, you think you are far away from the answer. You think you are far away from the breakthrough. You think you are far away from the change you have been praying for. But, my child, you are much closer than you think. My child, one of the greatest lies fear ever tells is this. Nothing is changing. Nothing is coming. You are still far away. But fear rarely tells the truth. Fear measures only what it can see. I measure what is already in motion. And today, I need you to understand something that could change the way you view this entire season of your life. You are closer than you think. Closer to healing than you think. Closer to peace than you think. Closer to the answer than you think. Closer to the breakthrough than you think. I know there are days when progress feels invisible. Days when the distance between where you are and where you want to be seems overwhelming. Days when you wonder if your prayers are making any difference at all. But my child, many of the greatest victories happen just before people are tempted to give up. That is why the enemy fights hardest near moments of breakthrough. That is why discouragement often grows strongest when change is approaching. That is why doubt tries to speak loudest when faith is about to be rewarded. The enemy wants you to stop now. He wants you to quit now. He wants you to believe that the journey has accomplished nothing. Because if you stop too soon, you may never see what was already drawing near. My child, look at how far I have already brought you. There was a time when the pain was stronger than it is today. There was a time when the fear controlled you more than it does today. There was a time when you felt completely overwhelmed by circumstances that no longer hold the same power over you. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are not where you used to be. And that matters. Growth matters. Progress matters. Healing matters. Even when it happens slowly. Do not overlook the victories that happen quietly. The calmer mind. The stronger heart. The renewed courage. the willingness to try again. These things matter. These things are evidence that I have been working all along. My child, I need you to stop defining yourself by what has not happened yet. Stop measuring your life only by unfinished prayers. Stop measuring your value only by visible results. You are more than a waiting season. You are more than a delayed answer. You are more than a temporary struggle. You are my child, and my plans for you did not disappear because the road became difficult. My promises did not expire because the process took longer than expected. My love did not change because you became tired. Listen carefully. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not alone. When you felt weak, I was with you. When you felt confused, I was with you. When you cried in secret, I was with you. When you questioned everything, I was with you. And I am still with you now. The same hand that guided you yesterday is guiding you today. The same love that carried you before is carrying you now. The same faithfulness that protected you then will protect you again. My child, do not allow temporary circumstances to convince you that your future is limited. I see things you cannot yet see. I know outcomes you cannot yet know. I am already present in the tomorrow you are worrying about today. And what seems impossible from your perspective is not impossible from mine. One conversation can change everything. One opportunity can change everything. One moment of favor can change everything. One act of my grace can accomplish more than years of human effort. That is why I need you to keep trusting, keep believing, keep moving forward, keep expecting good things from me, because the story is not over. The answer is not gone. The promise is not dead. And before this message ends, there is one final truth I need you to remember. A truth that will carry you through every season ahead, because this month will not end the way it began. My child, as this message comes to a close, I want you to hold on to one truth. Do not judge your future by your present circumstances. Do not decide how the story ends based on the chapter you are currently living. And do not assume that what you see today is all there is, because it is not. You have spent too much time looking at what has not happened, too much time focusing on what remains unfinished, too much time wondering whether things will ever change. But I want you to lift your eyes beyond this moment, beyond this struggle, beyond this waiting season, beyond this temporary uncertainty, because I see what you cannot yet see. I see the answers that are moving toward you. I see the opportunities that are being prepared. I see the healing that is taking place. I see the strength that has been growing inside you. And I see the future that I have been building all along. My child, this month will not end the way it began. You may have entered this month carrying fear, but you will not leave it the same way. You may have entered this month carrying discouragement, but you will not leave it the same way. You may have entered this month feeling uncertain about what lies ahead, but you will not leave it the same way. Because I have been working, even when you could not see it, even when you could not feel it, even when you questioned it. I have been working. What looks delayed is not denied. What looks silent is not forgotten. What looks impossible is not beyond my power. Remember that. When fear tries to speak, remember that. When doubt tries to return, remember that. When circumstances try to convince you otherwise, my child, some of the greatest moments of your story have not happened yet. Some of the prayers you thought were finished are not finished. Some of the doors you thought were permanently closed are not permanently closed. Some of the things you placed in my hands are still being shaped according to my timing. So do not quit now. Do not stop believing now. Do not surrender your hope now. You have come too far. You have survived too much. You have grown too much. The enemy wanted this season to break you. Instead, it strengthened you. The enemy wanted this season to stop you. Instead, it prepared you. The enemy wanted this season to convince you that your future was small. Instead, it brought you closer to me. And that changes everything. My child, the story is not ending, the story is turning. The waiting is not meaningless. The silence is not empty. The process is not wasted. And before this month comes to an end, I want you to remember this. I am with you. I have always been with you, and I am not finished writing your story. Before you leave, my child, I want you to make one final declaration of faith. If this message spoke to your heart, If you believe that God is still working, even when you cannot see it, if you are choosing hope over fear and faith over doubt, then type these words in the comments. God is already working in my life. Type it boldly. Type it with faith. Type it as a reminder to yourself that your story is not over. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is choosing to believe before the evidence appears. And today, I want those words to become your declaration. God is already working in my life. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who may be feeling discouraged, tired, or forgotten right now. You never know who needs this reminder today. And remember, my child, what looks delayed is not denied. What looks silent is not forgotten. What looks impossible is not beyond God's power. Keep trusting, keep believing, keep moving forward. Because before this month ends, the God who has carried you this far is still working on your behalf, and He is not finished yet.